Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today's going to be a bit of a follow-up to a video I uploaded a few days ago on the channel regarding Activision Blizzard. To make a long story short, there were some leaked internal chat logs showing some discussions amongst its employees regarding topics like DEI. We also saw some personal accounts of Blizzard employees being shared, which contained some very unhinged posts. And a lot of people are criticizing Activision Blizzard as a result of those various developments. Now, no worry to Activision Blizzard here because a white knight has risen to their defense. A games journalist who's doing everything in their power to gaslight readers into believing that this entire situation was the result of a far-right harassment campaign. Does that sort of narrative sound familiar coming from a games journalist? Well, it should. So what's the article in question we're talking about? Well, here it is, Pulitzer Prize winning title here for sure, saying this from game developer. It looks like someone at Activision is leaking Slack screenshots to right-wing X users. Several right-wing users on X are sharing screenshots of Activision employees discussing DEI programs in Slack. Now, you'll notice a very common theme throughout this title of the article and the article itself, and that is lying by omission, leaving out critical information and context that hurts your story and your narrative. That is something very common amongst games journalists and journalists at large. Now, before we look into the details and get some context here, let's just look at the absolute state of games journalists and how irrelevant they are. So here you have game developer on X with a following size of 477,000. How many likes do you think are on this tweet that was posted 4 days ago? 4. They have 4 likes in 4 days on an account this big. That's basically a like a day. That is the absolute state of games journalism right now. But let's look at the context here. So what's been going on? Well, about a week and a half ago, Flash shared some of these Slack chat logs. This is like their internal communication system at Activision Blizzard. And clearly a lot of their employees are very upset about the state of America currently, the results of the election, the fact that the new administration has taken over the past week and a half or so, and they are freaking out. As you can see, typical employees from Blizzard, she, her, they, them, / dude. 5 different pronouns you can call this person. But a lot of them are very concerned and asking HR what they're going to do to protect them in this company as DEI is being repudiated across the board, especially in America. And we see all kinds of reactions to the election and developments here. They're freaking out over Elon Musk, calling him the word that you can't really say on YouTube without getting hit with something. But you also see people posting guillotines in reaction to posts about Donald Trump and so on and so forth. And then you can see people discovering that there's leaks going on here, and now they're hunting the company. They're trying to find out who the leaker is and to have them punished. That is what Flash contributed to this situation. And then we saw a few days ago, Mark Kern, who was a former team lead at Blizzard, sharing some very interesting stuff, beginning with the president, Rob Kostick, sharing his thoughts on DEI and ensuring his employees that they're going to stick with DEI, even though people are repudiating it across the board. On top of that, we saw this post from a member of Blizzard, and this was their post on Facebook saying, GameEng, your local MAGA. This is a technical artist at Blizzard, and obviously this is quite unhinged, a bad look in and of itself just because it alienates over half of the country and also is just violent rhetoric that has no place. In any other context, any other company, you'd get fired for posting something like this. But unfortunately, we know how this goes. He's likely going to face no consequences because of the target of the post. Now let's finally get to the article here. As we can see, it looks like someone at Activision is leaking Slack screenshots to right-wing X users. Yes, everyone who disagrees with you ideologically is right-wing. And as we'll see, not just right-wing, far rights. But you can see here's the author, Bryant Francis. As you can see, a classic journalist move. He's on X under protected mode. You can't view his profile because a few weeks ago, because of a stinker article he made regarding Sweet Baby Inc., he went private because he didn't want to face any criticism. This is a very typical move, and as expected with games journalists, pronouns in bio. That is pretty much a guarantee at this point. So let's read the article here. Activision Blizzard employees are facing increased harassment on X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube following the distribution of what appears to be leaked internal messages between employees discussing the state of diversity equity and inclusion programs at the company. The messages, which appear to have been sent via Slack, a communications tool used at Activision Blizzard, have been directly posted by far-right users attacking the company for continuing to support diversity in the workplace. It appears someone with access to Activision's Slack channel is sending screenshots and photos of these messages directly to these users. Now, of course, you can see they're burying the lead. They're not just talking about, they're just trying to limit this to a conversation about DEI. They're saying these far-right people are angry about DEI being supported at Activision Blizzard. And I would say it goes far beyond anyone on the right. Plenty of people, even if they're moderate, don't support DEI because it is basically structural discrimination, trying to say people should be treated differently based on the color of their skin. But as you can see, the inconsistencies and the dramatization of this entire article is already kicking off pretty strong here with far right, because they said in the title it was just right wing. Now all of a sudden it's far right. And to these people, it's all the same, right? If you disagree with them on anything politically, you are on the far right. You're the word that you can't say too much on YouTube, going back to a certain time in Germany. Like that is what's going on here. And of course, they're burying the lead. They're ignoring the posts on social media where the one employee was wishing harm and some would say inciting harm upon people based on their political beliefs. But let's continue on. Activision senior QA tester Sam Hudson appeared to confirm the ongoing harassment in a post on LinkedIn on January 25th and stated several of their colleagues had been quote-unquote doxxed, which they don't seem to really have a working definition here or a functional one, and they're just trying to basically dramatize this entire situation to make everyone appear like a victim in this situation. Goes on saying this employee took screenshots of ABK-wide discussions about the safety of our protected information like name changes and visa statuses and sent them to, and look at this dude, journalism in the year 2025, immediate typos, but anyways, to an extremely racist, sexist, and transphobic individual on Twitter who has over 100,000 followers. Wow, they almost ran out of character space with the amount of buzzwords they threw in there. But with this description of the 100,000 followers, that applies to both Flash and Grums. So I guess congratulations, boys. You've both been included in this description. But it continues on saying, it is even more dangerous to be trans or an immigrant at Activision now, apparently, as someone who works with us has no problems doxing people. So again, trying to play this victim narrative by using this term in a very, very robust way. Game developer reviewed the leaked message and identified the names of several current employees of Activision and its subsidiaries. These leaks raise questions about what Activision is doing to protect its employees and what action it will take against the person or persons who shared the screenshots if they work for the company. The company's publicly posted diversity policy promises it will create safe spaces to build community at the studio. The continued leaking of employee messages raises concerns over if that promise will be kept. Well, that's your first problem, is having to have safe spaces to build community in your company. Like, just do the work. Like, why do you have to have these safe spaces to talk about politics and all these things? Like, it seems a bit over the top. And this is kind of like creating your own standard where these employees are going to hold it over your head and make sure you're following through on these safe spaces because you promised it to them. And now they're going to be relying on it and basically hounding you whenever they feel like their safe space is being violated. In this case, basically just people getting information about how they view DEI and things like that. But of course, this is about finding the mole. They're trying to find the person who revealed these screenshots. They want to punish this person. Ironically enough, they have way more energy both privately and publicly to go after this leaker of these messages, but they have no response or anything to address when it regards the violent posts of their technical artist. And also, you have to ask yourself, why are people sharing these sorts of messages? Well, they're obviously tired of DEI, and based on the kind of atmosphere we're seeing right now where people are much more vocal in their distaste for DEI, I think people are finally feeling more comfortable to share this sort of stuff to YouTubers because we see it happen all the time. But let's continue on. The first screenshots appeared on January 20th around the time of President Donald Trump's inauguration and reference his presidency as a point of concern over policies and software choices at the company. The first leaked messages show an employee raising concerns over the security of an HR platform called Workforce. indicating it may be vulnerable to leaks and exposing the names of transgender employees who have filed for name changes during their time at Activision. So you can see there was already concern, but they didn't seem to be concerned about people within their chat posting things like guillotines in reference to other people, but of course they're trying to spin the narrative once again. Twitter account Yellow Flash Guy shared several messages over the next 24 hours, including one where employees realized their messages were being leaked to X and were asking Activision what it was doing to protect their security. The names and profile pictures of Activision employees were on display in the shared messages. On January 27th, user Mark Kern, formerly CEO of Red 5 Studios, got in on the action, showing a photograph of a Slack message from Activision president Rob Kostic telling employees the company would be continuing the DEI policies run by Inclusive Growth Team. Oh, wow. Thank God they have the Inclusive Growth Team on the case here. In follow-up post, he singled out a technical artist at the company for posts they had liked on Facebook and called for veterans groups to cut ties with Activision over these policies. Well, unfortunately, as the federal government has axed all of their DEI programs, one of those DEI-related programs that has federal funding has to do with Activision Blizzard. And this program itself doesn't involve DEI, but it is curious whether or not the government will continue to support a private company that has DEI policies in place. But nonetheless, we see this talk here about singling out this technical artist who only liked a post. Well, that's just patently false in many different ways. All right, we can see here from the post itself, they made the post. And on top of that, they're not just singling out this person. Well, they're the only one who really did anything in this situation. As you can see, the omission of the truth is something that they hold on to very dearly, and they've done it in the past as well. The reason this author of the article is private is because of this article released not too long ago, where they talked about Sweet Baby Inc. and how they were targeted for their advocacy efforts earlier this year, and that Valve and Discord, do they consider this a part or within their terms of service? And of course, they would get hit with a community note saying, no, it does not violate Valve and Discord TOS to make Sweet Baby Inc. detected a curation group. But we would see plenty of coping and seething, because in that article, they would also omit why this whole thing kicked off in the first place with the employee Chris Kindred at Sweet Baby Inc. Trying to start a harassment campaign. That's pretty much expected by games journalists. And also, Brian Francis would comment on this saying, we reached out to Valve and Discord and they didn't respond to us. Yeah, no kidding, because you're a hack. Why would they respond to you? But anyways, speaking of singling people out, by the way, they would say this: other far-right users on X and YouTube have circulated these screenshots ridiculing the employees and encouraging others to join in. As per usual, they are not encouraging anyone to do this. They just say that anytime someone is criticized, but like I said, singling someone out, well, they put a link here to one of these YouTubers. It's only one, and it's Dr. Disaster. Unfortunately for him, he got singled out on this one. I enjoy his content, so I guess it's cool to see him get a little spotlight here, even if it's supposed to be in a negative way. But yeah, he made a fair video on the situation, and they're going nuts over it. But let's continue this out here. Online harassment campaigns continue to target developers in 2025. Game developers have endured a resurgent right-wing harassment campaign lashing out over the depiction of underrepresented characters in games since 2024. Around that time, content creators and Steam users in the far-right ecosystem began a campaign targeting work-for-hire game narrative studio Sweet Baby Inc., accusing it of attempting to impose a censorious agenda on its clients, including Insomniac Games, Remedy Entertainment, and Rocksteady. Some employees of these companies faced additional harassment after speaking up in support of their collaborators. In the wake of this campaign and other events, organizers like Take This and Games and Harassment Hotline assembled lists of resources for developers targeted by online harassment. My God. One such creator was streamer and Mad Mushroom co-founder Asmongold, who repeatedly discussed the campaign a number of times in 2024, agreeing with the claims against Sweet Baby Inc. Asmongold stepped down from Mad Mushroom over. They're talking about like the remarks he made about the Middle East, like as if any of that has anything to do with this conversation. But let's wrap up this article here. At GDC that year, online extremism researcher Dr. Rachel Kowertz explained to game developer that this harassment was likely to continue if major companies like Sony, Remedy, etc. didn't publicly speak up against it. The problem is that when leadership is not speaking up, it sets and reinforces cultural norms. Her words are given new weight following the inauguration of President Trump, who has issued executive orders ending DEI programs at government agencies. For now, Activision employees are left with a message from company leadership saying it will continue in its inclusion efforts, but they do not appear to be safe from individuals eager to end expanding inclusivity in the game development community. Game developer has reached out to Activision, and of course, oh, guess what? They haven't responded because no one cares about game developer whatsoever. But you would see a short response from Flash here, thanking them for the article. But yeah, that's pretty much the situation, and we're left here with game developer really putting out some bangers in the year 2025, and once again, pretty much falling on deaf ears and people only clicking on their articles to make fun of them, or clicking on, in this case and in many cases, archive versions, so they don't get the click and don't get the desperate ad revenue they need. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.